The NSW
in Jamaica.
President Donald Trump's
waste reduction.
Marcus Stephanie. Good day, I'm Shane Masters, and welcome to News Rewind, Jenn's look at the top stories of the week that was. The latest police data shows St. James, which is under a state of emergency, has recorded 12 murders since January. It also shows there have been 21 reported shootings in the parish, despite the presence of the police and military. A 20-year-old man was attacked and shot by 4 masked men in Catherine Hall on Sunday. In the meantime, the figures also revealed that 141 persons were murdered in Jamaica in January. During the first 3 days of this month, there were 15 cases of homicide. Between January 1 and February 3, 156 persons were killed in Jamaica. There were 24 murders when compared to the corresponding period in 2017. The Police High Command has been given special attention to Clarendon, which recorded 18 murders, the St. Catherine North Division 22, and St. Andrew South 15. 3 children have been murdered since the start of 2018. Crime is more of a governance issue than a national security problem. That's according to Assistant Commissioner of Police Steve McGregor. In light of this, he has proposed 2 solutions: give rank-and-file members an increase and steer young people away from crime. Kimberly Wright tells us more.
ACP Steve McGregor says Jamaica needs to have a consistent database of young people. He proposes that the government implement the National Identification System NIDS.
I think there's a broader focus that needs to be tapped into. I honestly believe that governance needs to step up. You know, we've been talking about changing of a commissioner and all of that, but I think governance needs to be up and running now.
Governance means policy in relation to these things.
Decisions and resources and so on. I honestly believe that our young people, before entering into the working world, they need to go into something like a semi-military attachment that would instill that needed discipline in them before they enter the working world. And what even more important, so that we can have a database on them. It is critical and we can't shy away from that.
The ACP blames this generation of parents for the negative actions of their children. He suggests that there be an examination of why the young people are being killed and why they are killing each other over minor issues.
We arrest upwards of 10,000 people for serious crime every year, you know, for the last 10 to 13 years. We are focusing on the ability side, which is the choice of weapon, what they use to kill each other. And we all know the gun makes up 90% of what the weapon that they use. We take off over 500 guns off the street every year for the last 10 to 13 years. Last year, we took off 900 and odd guns, but guess what? Last year, we had the second most murders in our country. Yeah.
ACP McGregor says majority of the double, triple, and other multiple murders are carried out by young people. He explained that many of them are recruited by gangs. He also argues that the government needs to prioritize crime fighting. He says the administration should offer an increase to police personnel.
But we need to look at the salary for our rank and file. That is the foot soldiers.
Yes. The constables, the corporals, the sergeants.
Just bring them closer to the officer corps salary scale. You don't have to look at a percentage increase. Just move them closer. Okay. That 6% that you are offering them, offer it to us. We're at the higher rank, but we need to get the younger ones up so they are more encouraged and motivated. We need to look at the basic standard of a station and to get it up and running so that we can have police officers working in an environment that is conducive.
He says the administration should offer an increase to police personnel. This strategic plan, he says, won't have immediate results overnight, but the goal is to lessen crime, save lives, and develop a better Jamaica.
A warrant has been prepared for the arrest of Omar Collymore following investigations into the death of his wife, Simone Campbell Collymore, and a taxi operator, Winston Walters. Codian Barrett picks up that story.
Mrs. Campbell Collymore was gunned down on January 2. She was shot while in a taxicab on her way to an Upper St. Andrew premises where her husband, Omar Collymore, was located. She was shot 9 times. She died on the spot. The taxi driver Winston Walters was also shot during that incident. He also died on the spot. Shortly after that double murder, the police took Omar Collymore into custody. He was questioned but was released a few days later without charge. On Friday, January 19, Collymore and another man were attacked and shot by gunmen in the parking lot of Allied Insurance Company on Belmont Road in St. Andrew. It's alleged that Mr. Collymore was attacked as he was preparing to go into the offices of Allied Insurance to process an insurance claim regarding his late wife, Simone Campbell Collymore. Both shootings generated significant attention on social media. The attack on Collymore also attracted international attention. According to U.S.-based Crime Chronicles website, floridacrime.com, Omar Collymore was implicated in a murder in 2008 in Broward County in the U.S. In that incident, his then-girlfriend Angela Gillar was gunned down in downtown Fort Lauderdale. She was allegedly killed a few weeks after she had taken out a $1 million insurance policy. It said that Collymore was her primary beneficiary. Collymore is being asked to report immediately to either the Constant Springs CIB, the Major Investigations Division, or the Criminal Investigations Branch Headquarters at 2 Oxford Road, Kingston 5.
Meanwhile, detectives are questioning Omar Collymore, the man who was wanted in connection with last month's killing of his wife, 32-year-old Simone Campbell Collymore, and Winston Walters in Forest Hills, St. Andrew. Mr. Collymore, who has been identified to be a co-conspirator in the double murder, was captured at a guest house in St. Elizabeth during an early morning police operation on Thursday. A taxi driver has made his initial appearance in a court in Cayman following last year's motor vehicle crash which claimed the life of a Jamaican doctor. Roy Clivey Tamasa, who is facing 2 charges, appeared in court on Monday. He is charged with causing death by reckless driving and causing death by dangerous driving. We have more in this report from the Cayman 27 News.
Taxi driver Roy Clivey Tamasa made his initial court appearance today for allegedly causing the death of Jamaican doctor Veri Jones Leslie. Mr. Tamasa, 72, of Bodden Town, appeared in court traffic on 2 charges, causing death by reckless driving and causing death by dangerous driving. The charges stem from a July 18th incident near Andy's Rent-A-Car at the Owen Roberts International Airport. Mr. Tamasa was driving a silver Toyota Hi-Ace van when he struck Dr. Veri Annetta Jones Leslie, a visiting doctor from Jamaica. He was formally charged on January 12th.
The issue of Jerusalem becoming the capital of Israel and Jamaica abstaining from the recent vote on the matter at the UN General Assembly were topical during the state visit of U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. Shonagay Warren has that story.
A media briefing scheduled to begin at 1:45 p.m. started approximately 30 minutes later. But it wasn't without the much talked about comments made by U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley. This was what Haley said in December last year before the UN vote.
When we make generous contributions to the UN, we also have a legitimate expectation that our goodwill is recognized and respected. When a nation is singled out for attack in this organization, that nation is disrespected. What's more, that nation is asked to pay for the privilege of being disrespected.
When asked about the comments, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson did not provide a straightforward answer, but referred to what U.S. President Donald Trump said in his State of the Union speech on January 30.
Well, I think President Trump actually addressed this in his State of the Union speech the other night when he said, we need to undertake a re-examination of how the United States provides aid around the world globally, and not just for this particular issue, but more broadly in terms of, as we provide significant assistance to countries, are these countries that align with our values? Are they countries that align with what we believe are ways to make the world a safer, more prosperous place? And so I think it's in that context that I would answer your question, as it's not been examined in quite some time, or if ever.
The U.S. Secretary of State, however, made it known that no new policy position has yet been taken by the Trump administration. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness highlighted why the government decided to abstain from the vote.
from a diplomatic perspective, Jamaica did not need to take a position on another country's position on where they would want to see as a capital in the world. So from our perspective, this was not an issue that Jamaica should take a position on. Generally speaking, Jamaica conducts its foreign policy on principle. We are not conducting foreign policy for aid or for special benefits. So I want to make that position very clear to the Jamaican people.
And there is another call for Jamaica to abstain from purchasing oil from Venezuela. The call was made as U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson visited the island. An executive order in August 2017 by U.S. President Donald Trump had many countries scurrying to find an alternate partner from which to buy oil. The executive order prohibits Americans and those within the U.S. from engaging in transactions involving new, medium, and long-term debt, new equity, and certain existing bonds of the government of Venezuela. It also restricts the purchase of any security from the government of Venezuela other than specified debt securities. After the executive order was issued, the Jamaican government said it was considering purchasing the 49% shares in Petrojam, which is owned by Venezuelan state-owned oil company PDVSA. This as concerns mounted among banks locally and overseas. The concern was again raised at Wednesday's press briefing at Jamaica House to Prime Minister Andrew Holness, to which he gave this response.
We now don't currently import oil from Venezuela. With the new dynamics in the global trade in energy, and with the United States now becoming a net exporter of energy resources, Jamaica can, in this new paradigm, benefit from that.
The U.S. Secretary of State was then asked if the U.S. would be able to provide subsidized oil to Jamaica and other countries in the region and Latin America, to which he responded,
and we will be looking at what are actions the U.S. might take to mitigate the negative impacts of that. So I don't want to get into specifics because we're going to undertake a very quick study to see, are there some things that the U.S. could easily do with our rich energy endowment, with the infrastructure that we already have available. What could we do to perhaps soften the impact of that?
Jamaica is currently in the process of moving towards joining the growing number of countries banning or charging fees for the use of plastic shopping bags, or scandal bags as they are popularly called in Jamaica. Okoye Rodamari tells us more.
This follows a study from the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, which showed that since 2015, each person in Jamaica has been using approximately 500 scandal bags annually, an estimated 75% increase from 2011. This compares to persons in the European Union using an average of 200 bags annually. With these bags posing a significant threat to the environment and our health, lead researcher at the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, Desiree Phillips, said this is due to the lack of improper public education, as persons do not understand the negative consequences associated with using these plastic bags. She outlined the effects of the excessive use of scandal bags on the environment.
It's very important for us to address this issue.
Yeah.
And we go towards health as well. Plastic bags are tossed on the ground, and they often create a habitat for mosquitoes to breed and
And I gather that it takes decades, if not centuries, for them to biodegrade.
Yes. Centuries, and they actually just break up into smaller pieces. You call them microplastics. So they don't actually become absorbed into the natural organisms.
Ms. Phillips also added that though various organizations have come on board to deal with the problem, this is not enough.
Well, there are lots of various initiatives by different groups, NGOs, and businesses are doing their part as well, but it's simply not enough to have sporadic initiatives. Yes, we need a more collaborative effort, and I think what is needed is a policy or some sort of national framework to underscore and substantiate these initiatives.
She noted that the cost is an issue when it comes to moving away from using these plastic bags.
In many countries, they say the cost of the alternative for a plastic bag goes up to 10 times the cost of that of a plastic bag. So cost is a significant issue in terms of trying to move away from plastic bag use.
However, Ms. Phillips added that there are other alternatives to addressing the issue other than resorting to an outright ban. She argued that by implementing a fee, it would force customers to reuse plastic bags or boxes, and this would result in less plastic in the nation's waste stream.
The RJR Gleaner Group made another donation to the Walker's Place of Safety on Tuesday at the Child Protection and Family Services Agency on Duke Street, Kingston. Codian Barrett has the details.
Norma Brown Bell and Derek Wilkes represented the RJR Gleaner Group on Tuesday, presenting a donation on behalf of the organization. CEO of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, Rosalie Gaines-Gray, accepted the donation on behalf of the children who were impacted by the fire at the facility in January. Mrs. Gaines-Gray gave Frontline News an update on the rebuilding of the Walker's Place of Safety. She said procedures are in place to reconstruct the home.
So we have, through the leadership of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, they have garnered a team that's looking at the design firstly, and thereafter we'll seek to do the rebuilding of the facility at the same location. And so that preliminary work is happening now to get some estimates. So we have had pledges for building materials from some companies, and so we're hoping to do it as quickly as possible. So there's no firm timeline as to when we'll commence, but we are hoping pretty soon.
Mrs. Gaines-Gray also described the vision for the new home and said the goal is to make it fit for its purpose.
We want things like a therapy room. We want things like a playroom that we can do art and play therapy. We want to have the facilities in terms of accommodation for the children in terms of the bedrooms. You know, we want it to be more homely, but providing a therapeutic space for the children. As you know, it was a place of safety. This is the first point of reference for the children once they come to us in this region. And so we want it to be purpose-built and fit for purpose.
Mrs. Gaines-Gray gave an update on the survivors of the deadly fire. She revealed that the children now reside in 3 different facilities in the Kingston area. She also noted that efforts have been made to ensure that they reunite and receive counseling.
We have been in touch with them. We have been providing consistent psychosocial support through counseling, through visits. We have persons who have arranged sessions with them external to the facilities. One of the things that we're trying to do is trying to get them together. You know, so although they're in the 3 facilities on the weekends, and so we try to get them together and to work with them like that. It's gonna take a little while for them to get over the trauma that they experienced, and so we are hoping that with the different sessions that we are having with them, they are better able to cope.
The Child Protection and Family Services Agency has accumulated over $5 million through donations so far. Mrs. Gaines-Gray said the focus is now on the rebuilding of a new home for the children, and assistance is still needed. Persons interested in donating towards the rebuilding of the home can do so by visiting the Child Protection and Family Services Agency's office at 48 Duke Street in Kingston, or make deposits to the National Commercial Bank. The account number is 061018964. That is 061018964. The account name is Child Development Agency.
We take a break. News Rewind will be right back with the top business stories.
The NSW
Jamaica.
President Donald Trump's
waste reduction.
Marcus Stephanie. Welcome back to News Rewind. Now for the top business stories of the past week. Tempers flared in the House of Representatives on Tuesday afternoon after the government called for a suspension of an opposition private member's motion to amend the Banking Act. Michael Sharp has more.
The private bill tabled by opposition member Fitz Jackson has been long in coming.
and the debate finally got underway after a second draft of the bill. While historically the measures have had bipartisan support, the first indication came that the government side had other plans.
The work on setting up, hold on, the work on setting up a legal framework for consumer protection for deposit-taking institutions is progressing, and a concept paper describing the objectives of the framework and the legal arrangements for their achievement is being prepared for your consideration, and with your guidance, presentation to Cabinet by June 2018. Argument done. So what I am so happy that you look forward to it, so we don't need to go one step further with this bill.
Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips intervened when he sensed that the support was not forthcoming and pointed to the length of time it would take for the legislation to be passed.
Mr. Speaker, in that time, in that 3 years and 4 years that he's asking us to wait, in addition, the pensioners are going to find their savings disappear. The fee structure is going to continue to take away poor people's savings. The small business people going to suck salt out of the wooden spoon, all because of a device. For some reason, some contrivance that is being developed to delay the passage of a good bill, supported by you, implemented and instituted upon your recommendation, but which you are not bringing here now. You want to delay it for people to suffer some more. Mr. Speaker, no wonder Bob said, city hypocrite, them are going there.
A livid Fitz-Jackson was not about to be stopped, even by the Speaker, and suggested that there was some motive afoot.
It's nothing more than a concocted action to railroad this bill so that the people can continue to have their deposit exhausted. And the members are playing a part in that, Mr. Speaker.
The Speaker
Let us vote on the bill today.
Have a seat, Mr. Jackson.
Talk about hypocrisy. You talk about everybody had the bill to consider and all the provisions for years.
Mr. Wilmington.
And you have done nothing. So the letters here from 2016. To you, the Minister of Finance, to you, the Minister of Industry, to the Governor of the Bank of Jamaica. And what have they done in over 3 years? And we must sit down and wait again?
Mr. Jackson.
Dishonest.
At the end, the government side voted 30 to 29 to suspend the debate. The question was then asked, until when?
We'll take the bill through all the stages next week, Mr. Speaker. We'll take it through all the stages next week, so all the puff and huff.
A call is being made for workers at Petrojam and members of the public to be allowed to acquire shares in the oil refinery. The suggestion has come from the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees, UCASE, which represents workers at Petrojam. Despite expressing opposition to the government's plan to acquire Venezuela's 49% shareholding in Petrojam, the union says if the government has no other option but to go that route, consideration should be given to workers and small investors purchasing some of the shares.
If we finally decide to dispose of the shares, then I think there should be an allocation being made to the workers through an ESOP program. Indeed, I would want to suggest that an issue be floated so that the Jamaican public can participate in the ownership of the company. I think it's a sort of arrangement that, the public would be very much warm to.
And Mr. Morrison had another word of caution regarding the sale of a 49% stake in Petrojam.
But I do hope, and this is the third point that I'm making, that the rush coming from the government to dispose of the Venezuelan interest, that they are not going to sell it to any other group. I heard, for example, that the Chinese had some interest some time ago.
Jamaica's tourism sector recorded growth last month despite the declaration of a state of emergency in St. James. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says during the month there was a 6.8% increase in arrivals, with 7.6% growth during the period when the state of emergency was announced. Concerns have been raised that international media reports about the state of emergency could put a damper on tourist arrivals in Jamaica. Mr. Bartlett and a team will travel to London, New York, as well as Europe later this month to promote the destination and its offerings. And that's your News Rewind for this week. I'm Shane Masters. Thanks for watching.
The NSW
President Donald Trump's
reduction.
Marcus Appley.